Well, Congress is just 2 days away from the deadline to pass the White House's first rescissions package. If passed, it would codify the cuts in funding for NPR, PBS, and USAID, among many woke priorities. Just yesterday, the rescissions package cleared its first procedural vote with the help of the vice president. As the bill proceeds, Democrats are doing what they do best: lie.
Donald Trump's hatred of foreign aid has nothing to do with making government more efficient. Republicans do not care about eliminating waste. They simply want to cut funding and the consequences, even if it means kids starve to death abroad. It's incomprehensibly mean-spirited.
That, of course, was Minority Leader Senator Chuck Schumer. Here now to share more is Senator Ted Budd of North Carolina, member of the Senate Armed Services Committee and the Senate Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Senator Budd, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Tony.
All right, Senator, give us the latest on the rescissions package. Where does it stand?
We are in the vote-a-rama right now. So by doing this rescission package, the deadline is Friday, and we have to get this done. Hopefully we'll get it done by midnight tonight. The Democrats are throwing up obstacle after obstacle on the floor as we speak. So I am in between votes in this vote-a-rama right now as we speak. And they are trying to put out amendments that essentially would kill this bill and take back $9 billion, because there's so many things in there that would promote their leftist agenda that we're trying to take back. We're trying to rein in the intent of the taxpayers when they sent their tax dollars to Washington, D.C. The things that are being rescinded right now and in this rescission package are not things that are good for the American taxpayer. It's leftist agenda things. It's horrible stuff that we don't need to be spending our taxpayer dollars on.
Well, agreed. But so let me ask you this, Senator. You had some Republicans, some of your colleagues, that caved on $400 million on PEPFAR funding, when that's a program that has ballooned over the course of its almost quarter of a century of existence. And you talk about woke policies. I mean, it's filled with them.
It is, but a lot of those Republicans have been here a really long time, and they remember the good old days when that came in under a Republican. Unfortunately, it's no longer that. It's not doing the original intent, and I would say it's Joe Biden who corrupted the original intent of this and spent it on LGBT policies and pro-abortion in other countries. And again, that's not a good stewardship of the American taxpayer dollars, and it's just wrong-headed policy all around. It's immoral, and that was brought about by Joe Biden.
You're correct.
To get 50 votes on this, 50 votes plus one on this.
You're correct, but we got to fix it. I mean, when it started out, I was here in 2003 when it started out at $1.5 billion a year. Now, last allocation was $7.1 billion. I mean, it's just over 300% increase. And as you pointed out, it's wrong-headed policies.
It's just way too much spending, and it's on the wrong things. And so we need to rescind it. We'll have to look at it in another package and get at it another way. But a goal for the rest of the $9 billion is we got to do this by Friday. We need 50 votes plus one to do it.
Well, and I hope you get there. This is a step in the right direction. I'd like to see more, but it's a good step in the right direction. Before I want to go to the National Defense Authorization Act. You have some measures. You're on the Defense Committee. But before we do that, you were over in the House. You're now over in the Senate. You've had enough time under your belt there in the Senate. Compare the House to the Senate. Which chamber seems to be more aggressive in getting things done?
Well, it's going to depend on Congress by Congress. In the 119th Congress, I'd say that we've taken more votes than in any Senate in history, and that's under Leader John Thune. I think he's doing a great job. And we've been very aggressive, really taking the Democrats to task for their policies that aren't representative of America. You played a clip earlier of Chuck Schumer. That was completely cringy. They've had to make the most outlandish arguments, and I don't think America's buying it. So I'd say right now, the U.S. Senate is the one that seems a little more conservative and really aggressive. But I also have to thank my colleague. We came in together in 2016. And he was a great Louisiana, and I'm from North Carolina, but I think he's from your original state of Louisiana, in Speaker Mike Johnson. And he is a wonderful individual and a great leader, and it seems like he's doing the best he can with his majority over there. And so hats off to him as well.
I think it's a fair assessment of both chambers. One final question on that. Do you see, does the House tend to work closer together when you talk about your colleagues as opposed to in the Senate? It seems like the Senate's a little more independent.
Well, I would say this time I'm seeing great collaboration between the speaker and the leader and a lot of interface member to member. I still stay in touch with friends from the House, colleagues from the House, and we're working closely together. So I see that more than I saw when I came in 2016 under Paul Ryan. And again, there was like this divisiveness between Republicans there and Republicans here. I don't see that now. I see a lot of collaboration. We can always do better. There's more we can accomplish, but we're getting great things done, and we're going at it at a really good clip.
Well, and I think that's because in my time I've seen more individuals like you elected to the Senate. You know, Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and others who are a little more aggressive. They're not just happy with the status quo. So I think it's revving the engine up a little bit in the Senate, a little bit more to make it move more quickly. You introduced the Front Act. Explain what that is. Tell our viewers what that is.
We've seen these horrible protests, whether it was back during COVID or whether it was just a few weeks ago in Los Angeles. And we've had the suspicions, and now we have evidence that it is funded by outside the U.S. entities, those that are adversarial and hostile to the freedoms that we have in America. It could be a communist, a pro-communism, pro-China millionaire from overseas that's funding us and or that's funding these radical protests. And we would make these groups that receive that money register as foreign agents. We can't have outside dollars. Look, do we want to protect First Amendment rights to protest and freedom of assembly? Absolutely. But we cannot have adversarial dollars from these nations coming in funding these groups. That's out of hand, and we can't do that. So we need accountability and transparency. That's what the Front Act does.
What do you think the prospects are of that getting through?
Well, I've got some great colleagues, Senator Ricketts, Senator Hawley, that we've worked together on this, and we think we've got good chances. Again, it's like you're trying to thread a needle. You've got a lot of things we need to accomplish. President Trump's got a lot on his plate that we need to sign off on here in the Senate, and we'll see where we can fit it in. If it attaches to something else, great. If it's on a standalone bill, that's fine too.
Well, you know, it's an important issue. I mean, we cherish freedom, but we can't allow people to come and undermine that freedom who want to see our freedom collapse, these foreign actors. So I applaud you on threading this needle and getting it through in the right way. Before I let you go, you led several National Defense Authorization Act provisions that deal, of course, that deals with our military, but you focus on, in part, banning discriminatory affirmative action policies at our service academies.
This makes the Supreme Court decision that we saw to colleges around the U.S. apply to our service academies. When you think of West Point, Navy Academy, Air Force Academy, we want the same standards based on merit. That's really all we want. And that's an American value, is that you win based on merit, not based on the color of your skin or your ethnicity or anything like that. And the U.S. military and these academies have been the greatest leveler in all times. And so we want people to have a shot, not to be driven on a social agenda, but to be there because they want to serve our country and they're qualified to do so in these academies. So that's what this is about. And I'm very excited about this year's NDAA. It supports our troops and it creates a great opportunity in these service academies.
Senator, we're at a what I would say is a historic moment of turning in our culture. People had had enough of the DEI, woke ideology, and they pushed back, starting at school boards, state legislatures, Congress, electing President Donald Trump, returning him to office, and he has not been slow in addressing many of these issues. But from your perspective, what do we do? What do we need to do to make sure this is not a flash in the pan, that it's not, the pendulum doesn't swing back 3 years from now, but that we continue to chart a course that preserves freedom, individual freedom, preserves the very foundational elements of our republic?
Well, never stop praying. And if you're somebody out there, to you, Tony, your team, your viewers, if you'll continue to do so. And I would also say, remember that regular folks make a difference. I was a regular individual who went to our state capitol and signed up and decided to run for Congress and ended up winning. And, you could put your name on the line. You could step up for a school board, a county commission, a city council, and show up and allow your values to be heard and represented, because you're representing a lot of people. It could be Congress, it could be the U.S. Senate, you never know. But I took a shot one day and won, and I'm just a regular guy. And so I would say make sure that, that you're willing to stand up and volunteer and stay engaged, and always be prayerful and never lose hope.
Well, and Senator, you're doing more than just a regular guy. You're doing a really good job. We're grateful for you on Capitol Hill, and always thankful for you to come on the program.